I meet people all the time that have a list of like maybe 3,000 or 4,000 and make the same amount of money that I do with my list of 10,000.
Hey, Tarzan, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sam.
What can they expect to hear out of today's episode?
Okay, well, you're going to walk away from this episode feeling a lot less scared and a lot less bad about all the things you haven't done yet. You'll leave this episode knowing where your next subscribers are going to come from and what sorts of things that you should be talking to them about.
Yeah, I love that. Why do you think that everyone listening should build their emails? Why should they focus on email list building as a part of their online business?
Well, your email for an online business, like that's your mechanism for making sales. Like that's really where the transaction happens. It's the final step to like get people to click through to whatever thing they're going to buy. It's also where you have the most control. We can predict a little bit what's going to happen. You know, if I need a revenue boost in September, I know like, okay, well, I'm going to send X number of emails and promote this thing, and this is what's going to happen.
I think so many people just treat social like it's a requirement of building this kind of business. And so I'm curious what your advice would be to somebody who's like, okay, I like what Tarzan's saying. Like, I also want to focus on my email list, but I'm new. So how do I get people to my email list without being on social media?
The reason people are building on social media is because there's people there. So you're going to Instagram, you're going to Facebook, you're going wherever to get in front of the people, but there's plenty of other places that you can get in front of people. So just as an obvious thing here, like Sam advertises in my newsletter quite frequently. That's a place for her to get in front of my audience who are ideal buyers. We serve the same sorts of customers, and that can be done as a paid ad, but it can also be done as a swap. So like, let's say you have 50 subscribers and you want to get in front of someone that has 1,000. You might say like, hey, I'll give you like 3 shout outs. Can you like give me a shout out in your newsletter? So that's a way to get in front of someone else's email list. There's an audience there. Whatever your industry is, there's audiences everywhere. There's other leaders in your industry. Maybe they have podcasts. I mean, we're doing it right now. This is one of my best organic list building methods is getting on other people's podcasts. And if you think about the difference there too, it's like you're going to know so much more about me as opposed to like if you saw one post of mine on Instagram. So think about where are the audiences other than social and go get in front of those. Even very successful newsletters still hand sign people up. So like don't discount that. That's like even greater than an hour on a podcast is like I shook your hand. I looked you in the eye. Like I know you. A lot of people struggle with building their newsletter because they don't actually know what it is. They don't know who it's for. They don't really know what they're writing about. Like they don't understand the value. And if you don't understand those things, it's really hard to say, like, why should someone sign up? We started off with what are people going to leave this interview with? Like the main problem that I can solve for people is supporting them in letting go of their resistance around sending email. So even just knowing something like that, like if you go to my landing page, it says there's this headline that says the email that will make you want to write more emails. Because that's like the primary point of resistance is like, I know I should be doing email marketing. I know that newsletters are like this really big thing right now, but I'm like all up in my head and like, I don't know what to do. What am I supposed to write about? Do people want this? Blah, 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 blah. So just like knowing what is that problem. And this is a really good exercise is like sitting down and writing a landing page for your email list. Like traditionally, people only really create landing pages for their freebies. That's sort of the way that I was always taught. But we're seeing way more opt-in pages that are direct to a newsletter. And whether or not you ever even build that page, just like sit down. In fact, you know what? I have like a really great template. If you sit down with this template and you just like fill it out. Like, okay, what is the main outcome that I can provide? Okay, here's a spot that I have to write who it's for. Here's a spot where I need like a little bit of authority. Like, why me? Why should you trust me? What's your education? Like, who are your mentors? Who did you learn from? How long have you been doing this? All of those things, like sitting down and doing that as an exercise, hopefully you will build the page because you also need a very strong landing page to capture all that hard-won traffic. Just like to sit down and do that so that you can understand. Like, if you go out and do a podcast interview and the interviewer says like, okay, Tarzan, where can people find you? You have to know what to say. and they don't want to read the musings of Tarzan K. But if I give them a strong pitch for like, hey, you go to tarzank.com/newsletter and like sign up to my newsletter, you're going to see how this is done. You're going to like really see in action what it looks like when newsletters are engaging and interesting, and we do sales in a consent-based way. Like that's something else. We won't talk about that today, but figuring out like what is it that you are actually asking people to sign up for, because actually an email address is pretty precious. Like you're
Yes.
asking people for their time, you're asking people for their focus, which not a lot of us, we have a limited amount of focus. So know what you're asking for and, treat it seriously.
Yeah, exactly. Give them a reason to come around.
The other thing is like, because there's been this freebie culture, if someone signed up to your freebie, like you don't really know if they want your newsletter. You know
Mm,
that they want your freebie, which is cool. That's like a hint that they might be interested in hearing from you. I use freebies too. I think freebies are great. However, I also give people the option to just get the freebie, and they still have to say if they want the newsletter or not. So I use a tick box. And then because I want to know, like you signed up because you said that you want my emails. And I'll often remind people when they're like caught up in their drama of like, should I email my list? Like, do they want to hear from me? Like, but no, like they gave you their email. Like they said, yes, I want you to email me. And you have a button in every single email. Like we started with consent. It can be revoked at any time. Like
yeah.
you check that box. Let's not go over this again and again. We've taken care of that. You don't have to manage anyone's inbox for them. That's their job. You do
Yeah.
your job, which is you send the emails you said you were going to send. If you don't, it doesn't look great for you. It's also like, oh, there's a really short period of time where people actually remember you. If I signed up and then I didn't hear from you until like 3-4 months later, like I don't know who you are anymore.
Yeah.
So, showing up right away and showing up, at least once a month, twice a month is better. Every time you show up in that inbox, you are showing like, I am trustworthy. I am a serious business person. I am someone who does what they said they were going to do.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think people start to look forward to it. If you're doing a good job and people
Of
like hearing your
course.
emails, then I'm like always waiting. I love reading your emails. I'm always excited when I see your emails come in. So you've talked about the difference between email marketing and newsletters. And I think sometimes that it's helpful for people to hear what the difference is and what we're talking about.
So your newsletter is your weekly nurture email. There's, some body content. It's usually has a format that is predictable every single week, goes out on the same day, and it's purely there to like start conversations, show your expertise, do a little bit of teaching. It has a few little side hustles, like maybe people book a consultation here and there, maybe they see a sale, maybe they click on something, but really like the newsletter is consistent nurture. And almost everything else about email is email marketing. So, email marketing is a promotion, is a series of emails to sell something. Anything that's an automation, that's email marketing. And those are about sales, whereas the newsletter is about nurture and it doesn't have much automation attached to it.
Okay. So that's super helpful for people, I think, to know that we're really talking about two different things. And so would you share with everyone what your thought process is on the old adage of like there should only be one CTA, one call to action per email versus what I know a lot of people like you and I are doing now, which is having more than one usually link at least to different things in our emails. How are you feeling maybe for more the beginner? Like should they be focusing on one thing?
So with email marketing, there's usually a specific purchase. Like, let's talk about I just signed up to your webinar. So that
Yeah.
series of emails is like all the links are like add to calendar, Zoom link. Like we've got one goal, and any link should support that goal, and they're probably all the same link. But a newsletter is very different. You have way more flexibility. You can link to the things you're listening to, the content you produce, the thing that you're selling. Like you can put it's like a fun basket of surprises and like put all the treats in there.
Yeah, I love that you call it a sandbox because I think that's a great description for it and like
Yeah.
and it also helps you to figure out how you can connect with your audience. How do you break down or approach in your own business your weekly newsletter versus like when you go do a few weeks at what I call sprint internally of email marketing to point to one of your programs, for example? What's like that cadence balance like for you?
This is very personal. I have, my competitors, my peers that send way more promotions than I do. I'm like once a month, and maybe I might also, as a secondary thing, I might like do a little bit of affiliate marketing or something.
Yeah.
I might promote someone else's webinar. Also, I've been doing this for a decade.
Yeah.
So for me to do a promo once a month is no big deal. I recycle a ton of emails. So, the biggest amount of work is the first time I promote something. But
Yeah.
if I do it again 3 months later, it's way easier. I already did most of the emails. So just know that. Like you're not gonna be doing it at the same cadence as me because you have
Yeah.
way more creative output. I've experimented with the different lengths of promotions like for 10 years. And I like a longer window because I feel like it puts less pressure on my
Yeah.
subscribers. They get more time to decide. But actually, in some cases, it results in fewer sales, which is
Yeah.
normal. Like if you're not pressuring people, they don't feel pressured, they don't purchase. So that's normal.
Yeah.
And the other thing to know is like if you have a window of selling, like cart open, cart close, it's a lot of space holding. If you're new at this and you're like launching a course for the first time and you're like, I'm gonna sell this thing for 2 weeks, oh my God, you're gonna wanna die like on day
Hmm.
6.
It's a
And you're gonna
sprint.
be like,
Yeah.
why did I do this to myself?
Yeah.
We were just talking before we hit record. Like so much of being in this business requires like inspiration, belief, like you are the cheerleader. And so to play that role for like 2 weeks, I don't do those sorts of launch windows anymore. For me, the maximum is like 8 days. And then
Yeah.
I can't hold any more than that. I got to take care of me
Same.
first.
Yeah, same with me. Yeah. How do you approach now when we're talking about more of your weekly newsletter, not your promos? How do you plan what you're going to talk about each week? Is that something you do far in advance or you do it week by week?
I have a system that I love. Every month, I have one Google Doc that houses all of my emails. And I use tabs, so it's like all beautifully organized. I write my newsletter on Wednesday. I have like a little bit of an idea what I might write about on Wednesday, but I don't really know. However, I do keep a running list of ideas. And this part is so important because, figuring out what to write about week by week is a struggle for everyone. Like
Yeah.
we all have to figure out our systems to get around this problem of the nasty blinking cursor. So in that same document where I organize my newsletters, I have like an ideas bucket and I'm constantly throwing things in. Let's say I see something on LinkedIn, I might want to write about that. Or like I read something in a book, or there's like a little turn of phrase or a story that I want to tell. I'm just dumping those into the document all week, all month long. And then when I sit down to actually write the newsletter, I've got like, 8 or 10 things that I could pull from. And that's my system that works for me. Like some people love content calendars. Because I'm in this business to be a writer, I love the writing. It's my favorite part of my job. So anything that makes me feel boxed in is like,
Mm.
oh, like February is the month of welcome emails. Like, but I don't want to. Like, I feel
Hmm.
like instant resistance. So I give myself a ton of flexibility, but I would say because I write my emails the week before, I don't always check the date. And, like sometimes I'll write something that's like totally inappropriate for like Thanksgiving or like, cause
Yeah.
I'm Canadian. So I'll like send something out on like an important US holiday or like Super Bowl Sunday or something like, at a minimum for your content calendar, like you could have like important like cultural dates. That would
Right.
is important.
It's helpful. Yeah, as a
Yeah, because
guidepost.
it is important to be timely.
Yeah, and you can always kick like I've had what I plan to talk about that week and then something timely happens and I'll kick
Sure.
my idea to a different week and just keep it on the list.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
How do you take everyday stories, as I say, seeing a peanut in the grocery store and turning it into a story that has something to do with what you do?
Yeah, that is the question, isn't it? I don't always know. So I have a lot of experience. And for
Yes.
me, I am able to write the email and segue into a bit of a lesson. For most people, it works better to have a destination, to know where you're going and start with the story and see how you can connect the two. But like a lot, I'm sorry, this is like annoying advice. So much of it is practice. Like you
Yeah.
can ask ChatGPT to help you segue into a lesson about whatever your industry is. Like, AI can be great for support like that, even just to give you 10 bad ideas so that gets your brain going to think of a good one. But like, I'm sorry, I think it's just practice. And sometimes there's not. Like sometimes you
Yeah.
can't make it work. I'll write a story and I'll either be like, "Hey, sorry, I know I said I was writing about email, but I just thought you would like this story and it's not related to business. Like, see ya." Sometimes
Yeah.
I do that if the story is good enough. Sometimes I will explore it and I can't make it work. One vital part of my newsletter document that I'll share is the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just grab this thing that I wrote and like throw it on the cutting room floor. Sometimes just moving it somewhere else. It's like, okay, I wrote this. I can't use it. I'll just put it over here. Maybe I'll come back to it, even though I probably won't come back to it, but it makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So, you have to get used to false starts. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for that question. It's
No.
practice.
I think that's a really good answer. I really believe in practice. I remember that I found like a copy hackers document blog post like a million years ago, like 8 years ago or something like this, about segues, about just being
Segues.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like what does seeing a peanut in the grocery store have to do with growing your email list?
Exactly.
Like, here's
Yeah.
how. And like I literally would just start off by actually saying that. Mine are like a little bit smoother now, but like
Yeah.
I started by doing that.
Okay, well, that's a really great tip. Like, I put segues in my writing courses. There was always some sort of segue document, but like, if you could like have AI brainstorm this for you. But
Yeah.
just having a list of segues is great. There's just no way around it with writing. Like, great
Yeah.
writers write a lot and they read a lot. So if
Yeah.
you want to be an awesome writer, like, start writing daily. It doesn't have to be a lot, but like, keep reading. Those things will make you better.
I don't know what you think about this advice, but one thing that has also helped me in the past with if you want to write emails that are a little bit more story driven is that I actually think about the lesson that I know I want to teach, and then I think back, I brainstorm a little bit back to a story or something that's happened to me that proves that point. Like I reverse
Hmm.
engineer it actually and write it backwards. That really
Oh,
helps
yeah.
me where I'm like, I know this is where I want it to end, and where's a time that this thing has happened to me before that would illustrate this.
I use that method almost exclusively with sales emails. So
Okay, that's
I give
interesting.
myself more flexibility with the newsletter. I'm like, let me just have this is my sandbox. Let's just see where it goes. But when it comes to sales emails, I don't have the luxury of just seeing where it goes. It's like I need to address this objection. So I start with that and then a segue and then the top part.
What would you say should be people's goal with their weekly newsletter? I guess what's a good way to know it's quote unquote working? Like, should we be looking for engagement? Should we be getting clicks? Like, where would you tell them to focus?
The first thing is like you are in competition with yourself and no one else. If your list is small, your open rate's probably going to be higher, as is your click-through rate. So like don't bother comparing yourself to other people. Every industry is different, every list is different. It's just like a waste of time. What I would say as a starting point, even just like I'm going to log in every week after I send my email, just like don't even worry yet about like what it means. I'm just going to log in and I'm going to look at it. What percentage of people opened? What percentage of people clicked? And even more importantly, which links did they click on? What did people find interesting? So, like, forget about trying to like make yourself better. Just like data can be scary too. It's like, oh, I have to like put a spreadsheet together. Or I have to like try and be better or be as like good as like same open rate as this person, whatever. Like, no, just get comfortable. Just like looking at the numbers and see if you can interpret what they mean. And also, are you trending upward or are you trending downward? So you'll be, the like your subject line, especially when you don't have a lot of history, your subject line is really the most important thing that's going to get your newsletter opened. In the long term, like with your long term subscribers, actually, it's the from name. It's all of the trust and all of the history that you have with that person. And so that's also, you're building your credibility over time. But right now, you're starting out, so your open rate is going to be mostly dependent on what your subject line is. So, as you're just logging into your email service provider, whatever it is, you're just going to look at the open rate and then look at the subject line. You don't like have to take notes. You don't have to do anything. You just have to log in and read it and start there.
Yeah. And you have any suggestions as to how people can improve their subject lines?
Yeah, I mean, almost any subject line can be improved by just adding a question mark at the end of it.
Oh.
Like, maybe I don't know, bad example. Maybe I'm writing a subject line about my favorite sandwich, and the subject line is my new favorite sandwich. Just adding a question mark, my new favorite sandwich? It's like now we've opening a sandwich was I'm sorry, I can't think of
No,
a
I
better
think that's a good
example, but
example. It adds some
um
intrigue because 'cause I'd be like, "Wait, what is your favorite sandwich?"
oh,
I
yeah,
need to
or it's
know.
also like, is it even a sandwich? Like, a question mark opens a loop, and human beings
Mm.
are wired to want to close the loop. You know what else works great is, like, weird words, like,
Mm.
made up words or, like, think about there's all these online business words that we hear all the time, like, about, like, scale and perfectionism and trading hours for dollars and da 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 da, like, that shit is so boring. It's not gonna get your emails opened. So anything like even, like funny jargon or like clever spelling, made up words, like those can play really well. I noticed you use first names all the time. I'm like, wow, this is like really working for Sam. I don't use them very often.
The reason I do that is because I have found a little bit of a method that's worked well for me, which is centering the reader in the outcome that they want. So, like,
Oh,
Tarzan
cool.
hits 30K subs, like, something like
Uh,
this, or, like, Tarzan's podcast just got ranked number 1, and then,
uh-huh.
like, the story will be something about that or, like, that we shouldn't be going for that or something like that, but it's, like,
Yeah.
that's the thought process that I'm doing is I'm using the outcome and making them the hero of the subject line.
This is such a great tip, and I think so I write a lot about my own stories from life. However, when I'm telling my own stories, I'm also thinking about the reader as the hero of the story. And that's pretty important. It's like I'm telling a story in a way that I think you're going to be able to relate to, that you can see yourself in. And that's, you have to learn, like, you have to train yourself to think that way because it's a very layered way of writing. It's like, I'm writing the story, but, like, how can I write it in such a way that my subscriber really feels like I'm writing about them? And that's when you
Yes.
get the sort of emails that are like, "Oh my god, this is, like, the best thing in my inbox." Like, "Oh, somebody finally said it. This was exactly what I needed to hear today." That's what people will say when you're writing as though they are the hero of the story.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I highly recommend that everybody goes and obviously signs up for Tarzan's emails. They're amazing. They're full of value and content, but also I think set just like a fantastic example. And I know we didn't get into it today, but you're also such a good example for consent-based marketing. And so I know that's going to resonate so much with people here. And so definitely go check out Tarzan stuff. Also, is there anywhere else you want people to connect with you or anywhere that you want them to reach out to you?
If you hit reply, you might get my team, but you might get me, so that's also a way to talk to me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm going through, some a really big life-changing personal loss right now, so I'm not on LinkedIn very frequently, but or maybe at all. But normally, that's the social media channel that I hang out on, so you can see me there.
Yes, see Tarzan there, reply to the emails, and definitely go read. Well, Tarzan, thank you so much for being here. You're such a treat. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Sam.